They found something under the ice, and 48 hours later, the entire site was shut down. No reports, no explanation, and the data was erased. But one file survived, and inside it is something that doesn't make sense. Because what they found wasn't just unusual, it was structured, and it was generating heat. 2,800 meters below the surface, in a place where nothing should be generating anything. Case Nasuda Razuro 47, Queen Maud Land. This is that file. Antarctica is the most controlled place on Earth. 14 million square kilometers. Governed by 54 nations. Under a treaty signed in 1959. Every flight is tracked. Every expedition approved. Every drill site logged. Nothing happens there without multiple governments knowing. So when something happens there, it gets recorded. This didn't. And that's the first thing that doesn't make sense. Because in Antarctica, silence isn't normal. It's a red flag. It started with a scan. January 14th, 2018. 0422 UTC. A joint American-Norwegian team. Routine. Ice-penetrating radar. Mapping bedrock depth near Queen Maud Land. Standard protocol, nothing unusual, until the temperature spiked. Something under the ice was warm. Not volcanic warm, not geothermal. Localized warm, concentrated. At 2,800 meters, the temperature should be 55 degrees Nusung. This was 12 degrees higher. That shouldn't happen. Not naturally. Not at that depth. Not in ice that old. So they ran the scan again. Same result, same depth, same thermal signature. Consistent across every angle, and this time, they saw it. A structure. Straight lines. Right angles. 400 meters long, 80 meters wide. Perfect geometric precision. Ice doesn't do that. Glacial compression creates curves, random shapes, irregular formations. But this had edges. And that's when they stopped calling it a formation and started calling it an object. An email was sent. January 16th, 2018, 11:47 UTC, from Dr. Christian Holt to the Norwegian Polar Institute. The subject line read, "Thermal anomaly confirmed." The message was brief. Thermal anomaly confirmed. Geometric structure detected. Material composition unknown. Density suggests non-ice, non-rock substrate. Recommend immediate classification pending secondary analysis. That word, object. Not formation, not deposit. Object. That email was sent at 11:47 by 14 White. Everything changed. New orders came in. Not from the Norwegian Polar Institute. Not from the U.S. Antarctic program. From somewhere else. Stop analysis. Restrict access. Wait. But no further instructions ever arrived. No clarification, no timeline, just wait. The team tried to comply, but the site didn't cooperate. Because the closer they got, the worse things became. Equipment didn't just fail, it malfunctioned. GPS signals drifted, sometimes by meters, sometimes by kilometers. Compasses spun without settling. No magnetic north, no stability. Drones lost control mid-flight and fell out of the sky. One technician, Maria Svensson, kept a field log. It was leaked in 2021. She wrote, "It's like the air is rejecting the machines. 300 meters out, everything works fine. But cross the threshold, and it all goes wrong. Not gradual, instant." It wasn't random. It was like a boundary. Cross it, and everything stops working, as if something was protecting itself. Then they recorded something. January 18th, 2018, a field audio recorder left running overnight, documenting ambient seismic activity. At first, it sounded like wind, ice settling, normal environmental noise. But when they isolated the frequency, it wasn't. It was a pulse. Repeating every 4.3 seconds. Not random, not environmental. Regular, deliberate. 18 hertz. Below the threshold of human hearing, but detectable by instruments. That frequency is significant. 18 hertz is the resonant frequency of the human eyeball. It's known to affect human perception, cause disorientation, paranoia, distorted vision. A sensation of presence. Some researchers believe certain haunted locations emit infrasound at this exact frequency, creating the feeling that something is there when nothing is. But this wasn't a haunted house. This was 200 meters of solid ice, and the pulse was coming from below, from the structure. They tried to photograph the site, standard documentation, required for official reports. The cameras couldn't capture it. Every image came back distorted, not dark, not overexposed, warped. Equipment in the foreground, clear. Personnel, clear. But the ice directly above the structure, refracted, bent, as if light itself was bending around it. But they could still see it, with their eyes, just not through a lens. Dr. Holt's personal notes, leaked in a data dump, said, "We can see it, but the cameras can't capture it. Either the phenomenon is affecting the sensors, or it's affecting us." That's when things stopped making sense. And then the descriptions started contradicting. 3 members of the team said the structure was smooth, almost polished, like glass under the ice. 2 others said it was textured, rough, almost organic. One scientist claimed to see markings, symbols, patterns that repeated. Another said there were no markings at all, just blank surface. These weren't untrained observers, these were geologists, researchers, looking at the same scans at the same time, in the same location. When command requested a unified description, the team couldn't provide one. They sent back 6 different reports, all contradictory. It was as if the object resisted consensus. Before communications were fully restricted, the team extracted 1 ice core sample from directly above the structure. The ice itself was normal, 12,400 years old, standard isotopic composition, nothing unusual, but embedded in the ice, at the exact depth where the structure should be, were particles, microscopic, metallic, but not any known metal. The spectral analysis showed trace elements that didn't match anything in the geological database. High concentrations of an isotope similar to titanium, but with an atomic weight that doesn't exist naturally on Earth. The sample was packaged, sealed, sent to a lab in Oslo for further analysis. It never arrived. According to shipping logs, the sample was lost in transit. According to the courier, it was intercepted at customs. According to customs, there's no record it ever existed. Then, the message arrived, January 19th, 2018. 22 hours at UTC, an encrypted transmission. Not from the Norwegian Polar Institute, not from the US Antarctic Program, not from any listed agency. The order was brief. Cease all subsurface analysis, evacuate site within 12 hours, destroy all physical samples, transfer digital data via secure channel. Do not discuss findings with external personnel. No explanation, no discussion. The order didn't come from any known agency. It was signed Oversight Committee. No names, no departmental code, no records, just 2 words. Oversight Committee, and 48 hours later, the site was empty. Within 36 hours, the entire team was gone, not gradually. Emergency extraction. A Norwegian Air Force transport plane landed at the nearest research station. The team was flown to Oslo. From Oslo, dispersed. Back to universities, labs, home institutions, extracted, dispersed, silenced. Every member signed a non-disclosure agreement. Legally binding, indefinite. When journalists reached out, they all gave the same response. I signed an NDA, I can't discuss it. But a few spoke off the record, names withheld. One geologist said, "We found something, I don't know what it was. But I know 2 things. 1, it shouldn't have been there. 2, someone else knew it was there. Before we did." Another researcher said, "If you ever get clearance to go to that site, don't." When asked why, they ended the call. And then, the area changed. January 21st, 2018. A no-fly zone was quietly established over Queen Maud Land. Not announced publicly, no press release, no official documentation. But flight logs show every research aircraft scheduled to pass through the region was rerouted. Supply drops to nearby stations, delayed by weeks. Scientific permits for the area, denied. Tourism expeditions, rare as they are, received warnings about unstable ice conditions. Flights rerouted. Access restricted. Satellite data replaced, not removed. Replaced with older images. Images from 2016, before the discovery, and the anomaly. Disappeared from every database, every public record, every satellite map, gone. Every file connected to the site was erased, not archived, not classified, erased. University servers that hosted the scan results experienced technical failures, backups corrupted, cloud storage wiped. Peer-reviewed journals that had accepted preliminary abstracts retracted them, citing insufficient data. Research papers withdrawn, conference presentations canceled. Every trace of the discovery systematically removed, but digital erasure is never perfect. In 2020, something surfaced. March, an encrypted science forum, dark web, a compressed file, uploaded anonymously, password protected. Inside, fragments, thermal scans, seismic graphs, audio logs, and one image. Low resolution, grainy. Taken from inside the site, from inside the drill tent. You can see the equipment, the team in the background, and through the ice core extraction hole. A shadow. Rectangular, symmetrical, darker than everything around it. The metadata on the file shows it was taken January 18th, 2018. 6 hours before the evacuation order. The user who uploaded it and was never seen again. No further activity, no trace. Gone. So what was it? What lies 2,800 meters beneath Antarctic ice, emitting heat, disrupting instruments, resisting observation, and generating a pulse that affects human perception? There are 4 theories, none of them comfortable. Something ancient? A structure buried before the ice? 12,000 years ago, Antarctica wasn't frozen. Parts of it were habitable. Coastlines, rivers, forests. If a civilization existed there, and if they built something designed to last, then when the Ice Age came, it would have been buried, perfectly preserved. There's precedent. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, built 11,600 years ago. Hidden until 1994, the Antikythera mechanism, an ancient Greek analog computer. Lost for 2,000 years. And then there are the maps. The Piri Reis map, 1513, shows Antarctica's coastline without ice. Details that match modern satellite data. The Orontius Phineas map, 1531, depicts interior features that weren't confirmed until the 1960s. Both maps claim to be copies of older source maps, maps that predate the ice. Could they have been drawn when Antarctica was visible? Could the structure be what remains of whoever made them? That explains the shape, the geometry, the age of the ice, but not the heat, not the pulse, not the electromagnetic interference. Unless it's not abandoned. Something military? A hidden installation? Between 1946 and 1991, both superpowers conducted covert missions in Antarctica. Operation High Jump, 1946 to 47, U.S. Navy, 4,700 personnel. Publicly described as a research expedition. Operation Deep Freeze, ongoing since 1955. Still partially classified. The Soviets built Vostok Station in 1957. Officially, a weather research facility. But declassified documents show it was also used for deep ice drilling experiments, some of which were never disclosed. What if the Queen Maud land structure is one of those experiments? A bunker, a weapons cache, a listening post. Something meant to stay hidden and operational. That explains the secrecy, the rapid shutdown, the NDAs, That explains the heat signature, a geothermal power source. Still running, it explains the electromagnetic interference. Shielding, radiation, active systems, but not the anomalies, not the visual distortions, not the conflicting testimonies. And it doesn't explain why the ice above it is 12,000 years old. Something natural? A rare geological formation? Nature can create deceptive symmetry, columnar basalt, salt domes, ice caves with geometric precision. The Giant's Causeway in Ireland, 40,000 interlocking basalt columns. Looks engineered, entirely natural. The Risha structure in Mauritania, a near-perfect circle, 50 kilometers wide, once thought to be Atlantis, completely geological. So maybe the Queen Maudland structure is just a rare mineral deposit, compressed under extreme pressure, shaped by glacial forces over millennia. And the heat? Residual geothermal activity, slow radioactive decay. That's the official explanation, the one that keeps the file closed, the one that requires no follow-up. But it doesn't explain the pulse, it doesn't explain the visual distortions, it doesn't explain the equipment failures, and it doesn't explain why a natural formation would require a non-disclosure agreement. Or something else. Something not meant to be found. What if the structure doesn't fit any known category? Not ancient, not modern, not natural? What if it predates human civilization, but was still placed there deliberately? Consider the evidence. A geometric structure, symmetrical beyond natural probability. A material that doesn't match known elements. A thermal signature, stable for thousands of years. Instruments that malfunction, as if the object emits a field. Visual distortions that suggest it resists observation. A pulse that affects human perception. None of that fits a rock, or a bunker, or an ancient temple. In 2017, the Oumuamua object passed through our solar system. Elongated, accelerating, reflective. Some scientists suggested it might be artificial. The scientific community shut that down immediately. Not because the evidence was weak, because the implications were too large. The Queen Maudland structure has the same problem. The evidence is there, but the conclusion is unacceptable. So it gets filed under geological anomaly, and the file gets sealed because Antarctica has hidden things before. In 2013, scientists drilled into Lake Vostok, a subglacial lake, sealed beneath 4 kilometers of ice for 15 million years. When they penetrated the ice, they found life. Bacterial organisms, evolved in total isolation, cut off from the surface world, for longer than humans have existed. The lake is the size of Lake Ontario, and no one knew it was there. Until 1996. In 2008, researchers discovered the Gomburtsev Mountains, an entire mountain range, beneath the ice, higher than the Alps, completely hidden. For decades, scientists assumed the bedrock beneath East Antarctica was flat. They were wrong. So hiding something like this isn't impossible. Entire lakes beneath the ice. Mountains no one knew existed. But here's the difference. Lake Vostok was announced. The Gomburtsev Mountains were published. Research teams from multiple nations studied them openly. The Queen Maudland structure was erased, not studied, not announced, erased, which means, whatever it is, someone decided it was too dangerous to know. Officially, there's nothing there. No ongoing research, no pending permits, no satellite monitoring. Just ice. But the evidence says otherwise. Something was found. Something that didn't fit. Something that disrupted machines, warped perception, and resisted being recorded. And when it was discovered, everything was shut down. Data removed, witnesses silenced. There's one question that none of the agencies will answer. If the structure was just a rock formation, why shut it down? If it was geologically stable, why restrict access? If it was scientifically insignificant, why classify the data? And if it was dangerous, why leave it there? So whatever is beneath that ice might still be there. 2,800 meters down, in darkness, in cold, in pressure that would crush anything organic. Waiting. Not to be found. Just waiting. Maybe it's been there for 12,000 years, maybe longer. Maybe it was placed there deliberately. Maybe it arrived on its own. We'll probably never know, because the people who got close enough to see it were told to leave. And the data that could tell us what it is gone. And whatever it is, we were never supposed to see it. This file remains open.